All right, in this video, I'm gonna break down why I did somewhat of a gamble purchase here and picked up the classic, but I'd say still relevant contender in the adjustable dumbbell market, the Ironmaster QuickLock adjustable dumbbell system. On a related note, I will also discuss why I personally went ahead and canceled my REP Peppin order. That was a dumbbell I was even a little hesitant for, but I honestly was still looking forward to. I'll get into why I made that decision. Really is for this, it was a gamble. I'll discuss if I think it was a good decision or not. And then I will also compare the adjustable dumbbells and other things here I'll be reviewing alongside my SNODE adjustable dumbbells, a QuickLock system, which if you guys watch the channel know that I really do love these things. So we'll see if these get pushed out and these make the mix. We'll see. Again, totally unbiased review, guys. The reason I wanted to do this one is because I kept thinking for a long time about this set, even before I ordered the REP Peppins. And when I first started playing with these things at Home Gym Con, of course, I've seen these things for years. I honestly thought, they're kind of too slow from what I'm used to with these. I didn't think I'd really like the whole QuickLock system. But the more I started watching and thinking about the ecosystem, the possibilities of just heavier weights and what my real motivation was for doing the REP Peppin order, which was increasing weight, I thought I might as well just go ahead and give it a try. Reluctantly, I'd say, honestly, but I did pick up a number of things here you guys will see and we'll break down, which is I bought the 75-pound system of their QuickLock dumbbells. I bought their heavy handle kit, which jumps up the starting weight from the handle from 10 pounds to 20 pounds. And then I got the add-on kit that goes up to 120 pounds, which if you have the heavy handle kit, it actually brings everything up to 130 pounds. And then as you can see here, I also got the Pro Stand, which even though I wouldn't say it's the most aesthetic thing in the world and it's a little pricey, I would say it's something you probably kind of have to have unless you want to get super messy. Just really good organizational system for not just the dumbbells, but other things that go along with this ecosystem, which finally is something else that made me kind of think about at least trying this, because I've been thinking about Ironmaster for a long time and see if it'll work for me. It's just their growing ecosystem, and I think it'll work for me. And of course, for you guys who are looking for some versatile solutions, especially in maybe a more compact home gym with stuff that's out there, especially with your limited budget that I think we all are working with. So I'll do my best, guys, to cover all the bases as usual, pros, cons, and most importantly, practical use. How do I think this thing really feels? Because I think that's the hardest thing that you don't necessarily get a chance to really appreciate, either if you see a few videos or if you're just in person and you play with them like I did initially with these. So I'll do my best with that. If you guys are considering picking up anything from Ironmaster, it really helps support me in the channel. If you guys check out that affiliate link down below, at least now or at some point in the future, helps keeps the light on, or at the very least, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing if you like anything you're seeing here. All right, I don't want to waste a whole lot of time with this, but I think it is relevant. It might help you guys make a decision one way or the other if you guys are kind of undecided in this area, which, by the way, of course, share your comments down below. I will say those REP Peppins look awesome. They do look great. I think they would have been a great dumbbell. My order got delayed probably at least 3 or 4 times. I want to say at least 3 for sure. And if I got those things when I said they were supposed to come in, I probably wouldn't be doing this review, honestly. But the longer stuff waited, I started getting buyer's remorse and kind of thinking a little bit. Of course, if you guys, I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but at Home Gym Con, I got a chance to play around with the prototypes. And even in that video, I said I'm a little apprehensive because there were some power block vibes. I don't think it really felt a whole lot like how the power blocks felt. I discussed before, I don't like the way power blocks honestly feel because of the way the weight's kind of dispersed when you kind of do things like curls or lateral raises and stuff like that. Just in that kind of blocky kind of cage feel too. But my main thing was, one, they looked aesthetically just really cool. I love the QuickLock technology. That was something that was kind of relatively new to me, but when I got these SNODEs, I thought that was awesome. The limiting factor though for me with these were that these only go up to 80 pounds. And when I went to the Home Gym Con, got a realization that I still had it in me. I could still rep some heavier weight, and that kind of motivated me to kind of want some heavier dumbbells. So 2 and 2 together, I thought, they aesthetically look cool, the QuickLock, and they're kind of heavy. Let's go ahead and order them. But the more I started waiting on it, I started watching, honestly, it was the Coop review that really made me kind of turn the tide. And I was already thinking about some solutions, possibly, even if it was really necessary, such as, I did this earlier in my first Black Friday video a couple weeks ago. I picked up a Strength Co. adjustable dumbbell handle, which is great. And of course, he's been around for a while, but I started thinking, like, if I just really want to use an adjustable dumbbell for some rows, maybe some snatches, front squats, something like that, you can go ahead and invest in one of these and just use that occasionally. So that is an option if that's something out there for you. If you start talking about like dumbbell presses, like chest presses, this starts to get a little more cumbersome with not only racking it, but also adding weights purchasing weights, gets kind of messy. So still actually a functional, honestly, a tool nonetheless. So basic stuff first, just unboxing and my first impressions when I got this. Boxing, shipping came very quickly. Everything was very solid. These things seemed pretty fresh. There was actually a manufacturing date on there that seemed about 2 weeks just before I actually got these things. These are made in Taiwan. Of course, these would be awesome, a couple steps up in my book if they're made in the USA, but I was actually told from Ironmaster that would be a crazy price hike, so I understand that these things are made overseas for a reason, but I will say they were shipped excellently. Everything looked great. All the 5-pound plates were individually wrapped. You got mostly a bunch of 5-pound plates in that stock 75-pound kit, and you got 4 2.5-pound plates. Then the Pro Stand, while there's not much to look at, this is not something I really necessarily wanted to buy. It's not the coolest thing in the world. It is extremely functional though, I will say, with the way it rolls around, all the space. You could probably DIY something like this, but you'll need something to kind of keep this organized. I've seen videos where people got this stuff kind of on the ground, and that is potentially for sure an option. Sure, some other ways of doing things, but you got a lot of storage down here and above for things such as like their kettlebell adapters or other spots for these QuickLock pins. Wheels are pretty heavy duty, but they support the weight fine. It's very easy to kind of move things around, and of course keeps things, you know, nice and neat. Many of you guys have probably seen these things work before, but I do want to discuss that here briefly, and you're going to see tons of footage a lot throughout the video, intentionally showing you guys how easy or maybe not so easy it is to do some drop sets and adding weights in a practical workout or a few workouts here. I do want to pay attention or show you guys the add-on kit first. It has these little kind of, I think it's 7.5-pound increment weights you put on both sides here. You just use a Allen wrench and you kind of seal those down on both sides. What I kind of like about this seemed like kind of a bigger deal for me, and there are some pros and cons of this. Without this, there's a lot of space in here. That was actually a downside of something I noticed when I started watching people use these things, especially in heavier weights, and just how it wasn't centered. One thing, if I don't forget to mention, I'll mention it now, is you can use things like straps, which I'd recommend if you start to get heavier to kind of lock yourself in there. So the good thing about the heavy handle kit, of course, first is that the starting weight would be 10. It now starts it off at 20 pounds. The rationale for that is most people are not going to go that low for doing certain things. Oftentimes I actually have found myself just grabbing these things and doing some warm-up sets with these just 5-pound weights. But it starts off at 20, and if you do add each of these, this will add another 5 pounds to each, just total weight. So now you'd have 25 if you screwed this in here. I actually don't know if this even works like that, to be honest, because you can do like a mini turn, but I think if you do this, and I could be mistaken here, yeah, see, I don't think you could actually pull it off. I think it would, well, it's kind of locked in, but I wouldn't really trust that. But that would be the only way you actually could get 25 pounds. But what I like about this heavy handle kit is that with this weight closer in, I just feel like it really kind of packs the weight a little bit closer to your hand. And that seems kind of subtle, but I will say, just imagine if you had just an adjustable dumbbell handle. If the weight's closer together versus further apart, that will just feel different and sit different in your hand. And I will talk about in general, this thing does sit differently in your hand. But as you add the add-on kit, as you get closer, it takes up some real estate in your hands, but I will say it makes things, I think, a little bit more evenly displaced and just feels like the weight is a little more compact to the hand in general. But again, if you've never seen this before, how it works, if I were to add a pair of 5s here and a pair of 5s over here, you gotta start doing some math, and you'll see me throughout the video maybe doing some math to double check things, but you'd have 20, 30, 40, and then with these on, you'd have 45 for this adjustable dumbbell right here. And then to lock it in, you line it up, just turn it so it's a little snug, and you're ready to go. Now, something that I overthought, and I can be kind of weird and anal about these types of things, is I even asked the guys at Ironmaster Home Gym Con too, I'm like, is this gonna, potentially over time have some wear and tear as you're kind of tightening this? He said it very, very rarely happens. It could happen, but if these things are back with lifetime warranty and they can take care of it, but he said pretty much that's a less than 1% type of issue. But that was something I was thinking about. These are knurled, and I will say the knurling here feels really good. And then you guys will probably see a bunch of footage of me using these big boys once you start to get a little heavier. It gives you the exact weight. I believe it's 75 if you didn't have the heavy handle kit. Otherwise, it's going to be, I think, 85. You can kind of eyeball it a lot of times, honestly, when you're looking at this. You know that this is where the thing starts as far as how much play you have. So like if I have this in here, if I put both of these on both sides, which really doesn't really matter if they're starting or on the outside. If I had this, you're looking at 20 plus these two on the outside, you're at 65, 75, 85, and then with these, you're looking at 90. which is pretty impressive. I think I'll show you guys a shot of when I compare it to my SNODE adjustable dumbbells. They're at 80, and then I have a set of 80 kind of lined up with each other, just how compact these dumbbells actually feel. And then depending how you look at it, that can be kind of a good thing or a bad thing. So when you look at these adjustable dumbbells, such as the SNODEs or dumbbells, and even the REP Peppins that have the sliding rail, there is that slight kind of drag or that kind of play in the weights that I would say, like anything, if you're not used to it, don't know the difference, you're not really going to care too much. When you go from these, jumping back and forth to this, you really do feel and notice just how much heavier this feels, even though the weight's the same more or less, just because the weight is so compact and there is no play between the weights. There are some times where if this is a little loose, you can see kind of like that, I don't know if you can notice, but there's like some movement there, and that just kind of like a good sign that maybe it's not totally snug. But that is something I found, like if you crash down with the weights too hard, it can maybe loosen up a little bit, just give it kind of a nice little, little turn. All right, so now I'm gonna go off some pros and cons, which I think are most important and relevant in the area of performance and how these things really feel. Because like I said at the start, you can watch videos, you can see some pictures on their website, maybe you can go to a store and kind of try them out a few times. Putting them through a bunch of workouts, how does it really feel? This is again my own personal perspective here, especially coming from someone that's a little spoiled, used to doing things like drop sets and maybe big jumps in weight from 20 upwards to even 80 and something like this, just on a turn of a dial. Of course, power blocks are like that too. Back in the day, QuickLock, this might be pretty fast, but I think now, this is arguably still kind of slow. They do a good job on their website showing, and they have other videos out there showing how fast you can drop set. And I think they do a decent job, but to be honest, yes, you can drop set or increase weight, 5 or 10 pounds, 20 pounds here and there, 30, 40 pounds. I think the biggest thing this thing takes a hit is if you're going something from like, say 35 pounds, you're doing some flies and you go into heavy chest presses. I think I might have already possibly mentioned that. Or you guys are seeing a bunch of footage in the video of examples of that. Again, it might not apply to you if you're doing things like set to set, like you're just used to doing things from doing a set of chest presses, you're gonna rest, change the weight out. Really, it's not that big a deal. You're talking about probably less than a minute of just time training out the weight. That would be probably max. But when you start putting these big boys in here, then it starts to get a little cumbersome, to be honest. But that's probably the biggest thing. A big con for it is just the time between sets, or I should say dramatic increases in weight. Otherwise, not that big of a deal. As it's kind of sitting here, one thing I noticed a few days ago is I thought it was a leg workout, but the middle of my quads were actually, they're still sore to touch. And I think that was from doing something with these fairly heavy and kind of coming down with them hard on my legs. They're comfortable enough, but even today I did some chest stuff, heavier chest stuff with it, having them sit on my legs. And again, it's not excruciatingly painful, but it's not the most comfortable thing in the world as they're sitting there, but really not a giant deal. Sometimes with the heavy handle kit, especially when the weight starts to get heavier, I notice that maybe my wrist, even though I kind of like having the heavy handle kit there for the dispersion of weight, keeping it more compact, I have noticed that maybe this corner here kind of gets in the way. Maybe I'm doing something like, yes, I'm kind of doing this. You can see it's kind of hitting me. Otherwise, it's a very solid feeling dumbbell. Now, something else is, this is also kind of personal preference, is, and I'm trying to be honest about it, how annoying is it changing these weights up, putting this on, especially when you're used to something like that that's so clean looking. There's something about just the sound of the weights and putting them on, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but one of the reasons I actually got sold in this too was I was playing with an old pig iron bar with using the old 1-inch weeder plates and an old weeder bar I had. Made me kind of think about using this. This might get old kind of fast, I don't know, but so far I will say there's something therapeutic about adding the weights on and taking them off, but the downside is that my workouts now are a little bit planned differently because of just the idea of supersetting. I'm not gonna do things where I'm going from 30 pounds upwards to say 60 pounds in some smaller muscle to some bigger muscle, because I'm just not gonna mess with it. Even though it's not that big a deal, I'm just not gonna do that probably with these things. These I definitely would do that though. These unfortunately I wouldn't. The knurling feels really good. The grip is a little bit smaller compared to something thicker like a SNODE or dumbbell because the handle has those extendable rods that come out of it. A final point, which is definitely a very pertinent point, is that one of the big pros is, of course, now you can go pretty heavy. And one thing I have noticed is that since I've had the opportunity to go above 80 pounds, I am taking that opportunity. Could be I'm in this honeymoon phase, just playing around with the heavier weights, but I know when I used to go to the gym, there are a lot of novel things that I could do with heavier weight. But like I said at the start in a previous video, if you just want to do some heavier rows, heavy cleans, heavy snatches, depending on what you're using them for, you can do that with just a heavy adjustable dumbbell handle for a few exercises and save you guys some money. It really comes down to if you're going to do things like heavy chest presses, if you're actually going to use it. These will go to the REP Peppins as well. But what I like about this is most people are probably not going to go above 130. You could, which is what I think is pretty cool about it. So it's maybe like something I can work up to. But that same amount of weight that it gets up to, like 165, I think 165 plus, most people, most modern, mortal humans are not going to be able to do that unless you're just looking for some like sort of feats of strength or whatever. So the 125 Peppins, aside from just being, having the heavy weight capability, they're also a quick change. That might be a win in that favor for that particular dumbbell, comparing those two brands. Saying that though, and the final point is just the Ironmaster ecosystem. That was a huge thing I took into consideration for other things that are out there, such as their barbell, their mace bar, they have weight plates, their kettlebell, they have some other attachments that go to their adjustable cable system. So as far as versatility, you are sacrificing the quick change, say on the REP Peppins, for not just the ecosystem, but I'd say also just the versatility of the dumbbell itself, not having the rails. It might not be a big deal to you, but I think if the question of having rails or not having the rails, I think most people are not going to want to have the rails, especially from based on what I'm seeing now, which I didn't realize, is that with the rails, those pop pins can actually pop out when you're actually holding on to them, so they're not actually functional. So all I have to say, my summary so far, I am happy with this purchase. Time will tell for sure. These are actually going to go probably in my basement. I don't feel comfortable yet selling them or giving them away yet because I may have some remorse. I just like these things so much. I actually like the sound these things make. That's one downside, is when you have these things nice and tight, they make zero sound, there's zero rattle, which again, technically is really a good thing. But you get that kind of nostalgia of the weights just when you're playing with them and putting them on, which again is satisfying. Overall, I'm happy with it. I think it's a good purchase. I'm happy personally with it. Other stuff I'm going to share with you guys help solidify this deal for me. Time will tell. My workouts are for sure different though, because this thing takes more time to kind of change up weights. But if you guys are into progressive overload, you're into ecosystems, you're into kind of just adding weights set by set, you want to work up to something and you just like the feel of just basic weights, and also not to mention the price difference compared to the other weight systems that are out there with the heavier weight limit, it's kind of hard to beat these. So all I have to say, guys, I don't think REP Peppins really put Ironmaster down. You might have some other weirdos out there like me that have gone back in time to something like this as a result of seeing something new and novel come on the scene. And that's what I heard actually from Ironmaster. They actually have seen an increase in sales whenever a new dumbbell kind of comes around the scene, because these things are still novel and unique. And again, pretty much are going to last you forever and stood the test of time. But with that said though, guys, if you are watching this and you're like, man, that just looks way too cumbersome. That was my initial thoughts, honestly, at first, and that just doesn't seem as cool. Or maybe you have Ironmasters and you're like, I want to do something, like this, where I can just superset. I can totally get that too, where you guys want to upgrade. Nonetheless, though, guys, I'm sure a lot of people might have some opinions and or questions. Drop them down below in the comment section. Again, if you're going to buy anything from Ironmaster, thinking about it, help support me in the channel, click that affiliate link down below, and I'll see you guys on the next video. You can also look forward to some other Ironmaster content coming soon too. Thanks again.